Welcome back to the Psalm 40 Project as we continue our conversation with Jonah Gallahue.
And sometimes these platforms need a more personal face than an organizational face.
Okay.
Even sometimes things like Facebook or Instagram, it's sometimes better if a minister is saying something, versus the organization. So kind of playing with some of those ideas. We do promo videos where Peter talks about what's coming up in the sermon series versus just saying, typing out on a computer those words. And that's sort of, I think we're going to, keep going down that direction. Where can we make more of a personal connection with people? And I think that's the hope.
I think that's the hope. And I think that's, again, that was the one thing I'm skeptical about, which I'm coming around and excited about, is that, and I think we're wrestling with, is how do we incorporate the relational connection in this and not give in to the impersonal. Technology can kind of tend to be impersonal, and we're wrestling with making it personal and relational.
Yeah, and I do know that is a issue. But there are a couple stories out there of people who watched us live streamed us and have become members and now attend the service instead of watching it online.
Yeah.
There are also going to be people that wouldn't ever step foot in this place.
That is true.
And instead feel much more comfortable for one reason or another watching it online. And I think that the church needs to be, and this is the global, church very generally needs to be okay with almost an online congregation.
Yeah.
There, you maybe come across people who just have no way of getting here, but for some reason really love this church.
Yeah.
And so what do we do with that? Maybe somebody doesn't have a CRC church in their area, but they really like what the CRC does, and they've stumbled across LaGrave. Maybe we should think about how do we embrace that instead of always trying to get people to come into the building.
That's right.
So that might be a conversation for down the road that we can also have.
Yeah. All right, one last question.
Okay.
And maybe I've asked it in slightly other ways, but I want to ask it this way. How is your work pastoral?
I think you kind of touched on it a little bit with the how do we make it personal. I spend a good bit of time talking with yourself, with Peter, with Christy, even all the ministers. Now I'm
You were going to say even Bob.
I was going to say even Bob. I really was. I was going to say even Bob. No, but I actually talked with all the ministers about how do we use these things as a tool.
Yeah.
Batting around the idea of, well, what if we did, something online, but at the same time, we want to make sure those people feel connected, and we know that screens do not do that as well as face to face. So again, hypothetically, if we did something online, like some sort of online meeting, we want to discuss meeting in person as well. And I think that is sort of where my ministry is, but also my ministry is interacting with the people online. Like, we don't necessarily get a lot of comments on our content and stuff like that, but when that does happen, that's my space, my realm.
Right.
Sometimes I got to come to the minister and be like, how do we handle this?
Sure. Yeah.
But I mean, for the most part, you guys aren't needing to check all of that out, because I can handle it.
Yep.
And I think the ministry is building something, getting the technology in such a way that it's reliable for people, that they can rely on live streaming, so they can then be fed by worship, by the music. So it has both like a people part, but then a utility side of it too. Like, just making sure that the camera works.
Yeah. I don't know how to do that.
is part of the ministry.
That's right.
Because without that camera working, people wouldn't be able to worship in the same way that they can right now. So.
Well, and I know that I've appreciated, times when I produce some content, maybe it's Monday for Missions or an email blast, and you'll come back with a question that's, how do people think about this formationally or ministry, or is this a ministerial question we want to communicate? And that's really been helpful in your theological training, and God's formation in you shows up in those insights.
Yeah, and I've appreciated the space to be able to do that, because there are times where like we word something and it's like we all know what it's supposed to say.
Yeah.
But if we just put it out there, it could come across poorly. And so just being able to kind of come back and say, I like what you said, but how about this instead? And that's, I think that's part of where my theology education meets the technology stuff is, I've told people I can take a 20-25 minute sermon and reduce it down to 4 minutes without losing the main point. You lose everything else, because there's much more impacted in the 25 minutes than 4 minutes.
Yes.
But if we wanted to get something out there that people online might watch, a 4-minute video is going to do it versus a 25-minute video. But it's all because I understand how sermon writing goes.
Exactly.
And I understand the theology that the minister is trying to get out there. So it's a very trailblazing venture that I am on right now with everybody else in the office.
Well, Jonah, I know I speak for my colleagues, for the rest of the congregation. We appreciate the work that you're doing in our congregation, and we're glad that you're here with us. So, thank you.
Yeah, thank you, Mike.
Thanks for participating in this interview.